Good morning, everyone. This is the October 17th, 2019 meeting of the Post Falls Urban Renewal Commission. And I'd like to call a meeting to order and ask Director Fountain to please call the roll.
Thank you. Baltzell?
Here.
Carstensen?
Here.
Crosby?
Here.
And Davis?
Here.
Commissioners Horn, Coles, and Clemenson have excused absences this morning.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Carstensen will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Larry.
Anytime.
Okay, ceremonies, appointments, and announcements. I don't know of any right at the moment. Does anybody have anything they want to announce or whatever? If not, conflict disclosures. Does any of the commissioners have anything to disclose regarding conflict of interest of anything that's on the agenda today? Seeing none, let's move on to the consent calendar, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Item A in the consent calendar is the commission meeting minutes of September 19th. Item B is the payables for this month totaling $185,331.29, which includes payable to the City of Post Falls for $180,062.51 for the East Post Falls sewer projects. Commissioner Carstensen and Crosby met with me to review the payment request. So we've reviewed that and found everything to be okay. And John Beacham will provide updated cost projections on these projects, which I will share once I receive those. Item C is a bank activity report, which shows total in all funds of $4,583,703.46 and accrued interest for the month of $8,188.25. Item D is the financial reports as of September 30th and includes the fourth quarter actual to budget. Your approval of the consent calendar will authorize transfer of $8,188.25 accrued interest to the general fund and transfer to the First Interstate checking account $185,331.29 for the general payables. And I would answer any questions.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I'd just like to make a comment. This is the September 30th was the end of our fiscal year. And on the budget versus actual report, we show our income, we show our expenses for the entire fiscal year. We are finishing the fiscal year well below budget. Our operating expenses were 26.8% below budget and represent a savings of $33,098, which is really a savings to the taxpayer since these funds can be used and applied to paying off obligations on our public improvements in our districts. This is one of the many things that we do that enables us to close out our urban renewal districts in our city in advance of their maturity date and return tax increment to the city, county, and other taxing entities. So I want to commend Director Fountain for the excellent job she continues to do for the commission and for the community.
Thank you.
I concur with that wholly, and also of the Finance Committee, Len, and all of what you folks do in kind of helping with oversight and tracking, although she doesn't need too much oversight. But you do an excellent job, and I commend you for that.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Thank you.
I'd second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Davis?
Aye.
Crosby?
Aye.
Carstensen?
Aye.
And Baltzell?
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, moving on to committee updates, finance and policy. Anything additional you'd like to comment on?
Finance Committee reviewed and approved the September financial reports that are included in this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Coles is not here. District review, I do not believe there's been any action that I'm aware of on district review at this time.
None.
Communications, property, and personnel, Commissioner Carstensen.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Move on to citizen comments. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission regarding an agency-related issue. Comments related to future public hearings should be held for that public hearing. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Are there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission? Other than those that might be on the agenda. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. East Post Falls Sewer Project update. John Beacham, please. Would you be sure and introduce yourself?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
My name is John Beacham. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Post Falls, and I appreciate the opportunity to present an update on the East Post Falls sewer projects this morning. So, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I want to kick off with a thanks to slide, with thanks to our project manager, Andrew Arbini. He works for the city. He's been managing these projects with help from Craig Bornpool, our utilities manager. I'd also like to say thanks to Commissioner Carstensen and Director Fountain for attending. I think they're really interesting monthly meetings on our projects. I hope they're interesting to the two of you. So.
Let us be part of that.
We are going to talk about 3 different projects today. Tullamore Lift Station, which is located just west of Highway 41 in the Tullamore subdivision. A Highway 41 sewer line, which runs from Horsehaven to 12th Avenue. And the 12th Avenue, I'm calling it Lift Station, but it's a more complicated project than that, which is really creatively located on 12th Avenue next to Highway 41. As a little bit of background for how we got to these projects, there's a project called the Northeast Quadrant Study, which was a developer-led effort to produce an alternative solution to sewering this area from what we had in our existing collections master plan. That study provided some alternative solutions that were a good fit for the city and a good fit for the developers. And out of that came 3 projects that were more or less needed immediately. And thanks to the Urban Renewal Agency agreeing to reimburse the city for those projects, or the developers, however that worked out. And then through MOUs, the city agreed to manage those projects with reimbursement from Urban Renewal. And I should mention the city is contributing a little over $500,000 to the design of one of the projects.
Thank you.
So with that, the Tullamore Lift Station project is a fairly straightforward project. It's a capacity increase with some extra emergency storage. Highway 41 line just adds capacity to our trunk system through Highway 41 corridor. We have an existing line there. This adds a second line that greatly increases that capacity. And the 12th Avenue Lift Station and Equalization Basin is a 2-part project. One equalizes the flow downstream, which allows us to run the pipes without worrying so much about peaks, let them run more full on a more consistent basis. And then the lift station itself, once we have a force main for it, will provide the ultimate future solution for sewer conveyance to the treatment facility from Northeast Post Falls. I'll talk through each project a little bit as far as dollars and status and projected next steps for those that have them. Tullamore Lift Station, it was estimated to be about $108,000 in that Northeast Quadrant study. Actual costs for it, and these are hard costs that are finalized now, were $119,000. So a little over what the original estimate was. That was a planning level estimate, basically saying we think it's going to be this much per foot, per cubic foot of storage, that kind of thing. So a relatively close estimate. And happy to note this project is substantially complete. We're waiting on paperwork to complete the final payments for it, but more or less the work is done.
Outstanding.
Here's a picture of adding emergency storage. That hole is about 25 feet deep and is located right next to the existing lift station. So it's a bit of a construction challenge to get that accomplished. Big Sky was the contractor on it, and they were able to get this done within about a week. So that was fantastic. Highway 41 sewer line, as I mentioned earlier, runs from Horsehaven south to 12th Avenue. This project design is complete for this project, and what I'm showing here is just a really rough outline of that from the set of plans that were used for bidding it. Worth noting, the Idaho Transportation Department has a plan to widen Highway 41. I would guess you've heard about that. Our intention is to construct this line before they do that widening, but within the right-of-way that they acquire for that widened highway.
Have they acquired all the necessary right-of-way?
They have not acquired the necessary right-of-way, so that's where I was going with my status update here. I appreciate the question because it's really critical to this project. Sure. As far as us being ready to construct the project when we get right-of-way. Like I said, we have a complete design. We've actually put the project out for bid, anticipating that right-of-way would be acquired within a month or so, and we are awaiting that acquisition. Should that acquisition happen quickly, we would be able to award the project, but informal indicators from ITD are that they will not have the right-of-way by the end of this year. And with that, we will most likely not be able to award that project. We will have to rebid it at some point in the future. So,
Did the bid that you received in keeping with what you were expecting?
it did. The engineer's estimate was a little over $1 million, if I recall correctly, and the bid we received was $919,000 and some change. So it was a competitive bid. We had 6 contractors bid on it, and it was actually one of the closest bid results I've seen. So lots of interest in the project, competitive bids. We were happy with the price. It was under the estimated price. I should say it was under the engineer's estimate after designing it. It was over the initial estimate of $719,000 for the total project. And again, the Northeast Quadrant estimates were a really high level. We think it's this much per foot to put it in. So once you get into the design, you start seeing all the little weird intricacies of building things. So as of today, the estimated total, if we were able to award that bid, would be a little over $1.1 million. I expect that number changes. I don't know in which direction it will change if we rebid the project. Our next steps on that are to continue working with ITD to acquire that right-of-way. We are really a hands-off partner in that. We would like to be of assistance in any way we can, but it's really their negotiation with the property owners. We have agreements from ITD, not formal in writing, but from their project manager, that we will be given a construction window once they acquire the right-of-way of about 6 months for us to get the line put in, which should pretty easily accomplish what we need to. And since they're able to build it into their schedule, it should work out well, and there should be minimal construction conflicts.
Excuse me, could I ask you, John,
Absolutely.
are they, the ITD fairly well on track timing-wise to what they're anticipated?
I think they were hoping to have the right-of-way at this point, and I'm not the best person to ask about their process. My understanding is they wait to have all of the right-of-way negotiations complete so that they don't end up having to redesign around some weird holdout section. And then they also wait to finalize their plans until they have the right-of-way acquired. So from where we are today, I would say they're quite a ways, 6 months or so out from being able to even award a project. That's me guessing. That's not information from ITD, so they would be a better source for that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, that 6-month estimate, is that till they've acquired all the right-of-way, or is that until they've acquired all the right-of-way and actually done their design for the expansion of the roadway?
Yeah, thanks for the question. What I was trying to say is if they acquired the right-of-way today, in order to complete all of their processes, I would imagine it's about 6 months before they have it awarded. So just to go through the plan finalization steps and bidding the project and going through that award process. So
But
they don't have that acquired today, so it could be even longer than that.
But we're ready to go as soon as, assuming we don't have to rebid, as soon as they have notified you that all the right-of-way has been acquired. We don't have to wait for them to actually do the physical design of the roadway widening.
That's correct. Their design in a draft form is largely complete, and our consulting engineer, has worked with them to make sure that we're not in conflict with their eventual plans. So the day they sign the papers for the right-of-way, we would submit our encroachment permit application, which allows us to work in their right-of-way. And we would probably put the project out for bid at the same time. If we don't have a bid, we can award at that time.
Thank you.
That's really a tremendous benefit to your project, not our project, in terms of timing, so that down the road, little things happen with ITD's plan isn't going to have any effect at all on you. You can get right with it and get that piece done, and they can move along whatever rate they want.
Yeah, that's our hope, is to be done and out of their way, and,
Sure.
And to have coordinated in advance, so hopefully conflicts would be minimized anyway.
Excellent, thank you.
And our last project, as I mentioned, is the 12th Avenue Lift Station Equalization Project. It is a 2-phase project. The equalization basin collects the peak flow. The best example of this is halftime at the Super Bowl. Everybody waits until halftime to send us anything, and then sends us all the water they can, and then goes back to watching the game. So we have to size everything to accommodate that. What this equalization basin does is it allows us to store that and pump it at a fixed rate for the rest of the day. And then the second phase of the project is to construct a lift station that would eventually connect to the plant, and that would handle everything directly to the treatment facility for that peak flow. We're at 90% design on this project. It's moving along basically on schedule. We anticipate having the design finalized and starting the bid process in January. I do want to note we have secured an easement to construct the new lift station at a substantial cost of the project of $2. I'll walk through this. It's got a lot of numbers on it, but I thought it was worth noting. The estimate for the project in total was $11 million. That includes a force main that's really outside the agency's boundaries or the district boundaries and not a part of the agreement we have with the agency. The lift station and equalization basin together were estimated at $3.7 million. Current cost estimate for that, if you hop down to the 60% estimate, is $4.3 million. So slightly more expensive than originally anticipated, still within the ballpark of that. Engineering is substantial. A lot of that engineering cost is for the force main. We're designing that at the same time as the lift station so that whenever funds become available for that force main, the city can move forward with construction. Estimated total is, as you can see, about $5.3 million for the portion that the URA has an agreement with the city to fund. The city has collected surcharges toward that, and we're contributing $535,000 to the design of the lift station and the equalization basin. The entire project, ultimate build-out solution is $16 million, and that involves constructing a force main all the way from 12th Avenue and Highway 41 to the treatment facility on Saltese Way out near Chase Road. So quite a substantial undertaking through a city that's already existing. And we are working to collect surcharges from developers in that area toward that force main, as well as building a contribution from the city into our capital improvement plan. I wanted to show you really roughly how this facility will work. What you can see here is the pumps themselves for the lift station. Flow will come into this wet well, either be pumped into an equalization basin where it drains by gravity to the existing system, or out the other side into two force mains that in the future would connect to the treatment facility. So we'll be able to reuse some of the pumps that we're building today for the equalization purpose for our eventual lift station. With that, I'd happily answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Yeah.
Question. On Highway 41, you said if we don't have to rebid that project, what's the chances of not rebidding it?
Fairly slim at this point, I would say.
That's what I was thinking, okay.
We've retained that project, and we have I believe it's a 90-day window with which we can either choose to award or not award. So we're holding out a little bit of hope, but informal indications from ITD are that they would not have the right of way within that time frame.
What's the timing, the length of time that the bid stands?
I think it's 90 days. I'd have to double check it.
I think so, yeah.
One clarification and one question. The first clarification is, this was in our original East Post Falls plan. This is all part of the infrastructure that we had included in the plan. It's not a change in the plan. It's just a clarification based on the needs of the city as they've developed over the last several years. And then just a second question. These improvements will open a large quadrant of land and opportunity for growth and development in that portion of the city. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. These improvements and just a multifaceted thing, but these improvements and updated agreements with the developers really allow substantial areas to be developed that were challenging to develop just from a cost perspective before. The infrastructure that was needed, and this infrastructure itself is very costly. So for developers to build that on their own would have been a costly endeavor.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the clarification about the original purpose of the district.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to know we're not amending anything. We're simply proceeding with something that we'd had in the plan that was now over the last 10 years has become a greater clarification.
I think that's really important to note, too, that would be being able to serve commercial, retail, development, new businesses, as well as residential, and just about anything you throw down the line.
Yeah, pretty much anything north of Pole Line and surrounding Highway 41 and east of Highway 41 would eventually make its way to through this infrastructure, or at least to the 12th Avenue lift station.
Right. Very good. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much, John, for being here and giving us such a very interesting and clear picture of where we are with all of that, and I appreciate you and all your staff and what they do.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to give you an update.
You're very welcome. Okay, next on the agenda is a, excuse me, Post Falls Technology Park update. Jerry Dicker is here, I see. Welcome. And glad to see you, and looking forward to hearing how the tech park is doing. And would you please identify yourself to them?
My name is Jerry Dicker. I'm president of BGI and GVD Commercial Properties. Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to say the city and Diane and everyone is working very well with us. We have a good city. I think one of the better ones to work with in the entire area. There's various different things that are happening. The documentation is going well, so we expect that to all be cleared up. That includes contributions, responsibilities between us, Foxtails, the cities, the agency. That seems to be imminent in terms of final documentation, which is a great thing. We're working on a lot of different fronts on the technology park and the 50 acres, which is the shopping center and incidentals. The shopping center probably will be the first thing to be built as soon as ITD does their work. We have a major user that we have a letter of intent with. Obviously, we can't disclose it, but they would anchor the shopping center and allow us to go forward. The letter of intents are not binding, but they're handshake letters of intent. They cover most of the points, and now we're doing the documentation with them and trying to figure out when we can build. So probably the most important thing in terms of that particular project, and maybe all the projects, is the ITD, getting them to move as quickly as possible. Now, they can get possession earlier than acquisition if they want to. We've met with some of their appraisers and told them, look, we'll give you possession whenever you want. I think most of the larger owners would probably do the same thing. It's to all of our interest to get them working. My analysis of them is they're a little bit slow. Now, in fairness, there's a lot they have to do. We met with one of their appraisers just yesterday or the day before, so I think that's on the Hayden, taking on Hayden. We met with them. We're trying to show them that everyone's cooperative, and we can't speak for everyone, but north of Prairie, it seems like everyone's pretty cooperative, money aside, and so they can get possession if they want to. It's to the landowners, I think, advantage to give them early possession, because it moves them along faster, and I see no reason not to if they want it. So the big thing would be how fast can the ITD move? And it's a big project, but, you know, I would, from my standpoint, I think they're moving slower than faster. I'm not knocking them, I'm just saying it. So the retail, the northeast quadrant is less user dependent because there are some users that want to go there. We have some restaurants and some other users that go there. So I think that'll move along in pretty much in lockstep with the ITD's function. No one wants to build retail until the widening's done, because the tenants will just suffer during the construction phase. A big thing in the project will be the access. So when we meet with, we have a traffic report that's largely done, that should be finalized in the next week or two. JUB is doing it, and we have either already filed or soon will file access requests that'll be involved in our negotiations with ITD. Access is very helpful to both the tech park and especially the shopping center, because they depend upon easy access, particularly in more than out. So we don't know where that's at. We'd like to proceed as quickly as we could. On the industrial part, the other thing we're working on is the Union Pacific Railroad. We've made an offer to buy their easement or their land that they own across the tech park. We've made it pretty much on the same basis that we understand the city or the agencies is trying to buy it on the east side of the highway. Hopefully that goes smoothly for everyone. We would still keep the right to distribute the spur onto the tech park, but we'd like not to have those trains there all the time. And the only way to do it is to enter into an agreement with them of some kind. That's going slowly from our standpoint, but we've engaged them in conversation. That's probably next to the ITD. That's probably the next big thing to get organized. We have commissioned a group at the University of San Francisco to do a marketing study comparing the Post Falls to San Francisco industrial and Seattle industrial. We want to put it out there. Here's the benefits of coming to Post Falls. There may be some negatives, but here's the benefits, particularly long-term. So that study hopefully will be done in 8 weeks, and then that'll be incorporated into our brochures. We're also asking some of the site selectors and industrial brokers to make proposals to us, so we will retain one of them to help us with the marketing. Having said that, we're working with Ginny and from Jobs Plus and through our own people to talk to industrial users some of them are in this area in Washington. We think that Post Falls and Idaho are much better for them cost-wise and also quality of living. So I personally am meeting with one. I have met with one semi-tech user, and I'll be showing them the property in the next few weeks. The documents are very important to us because the documents tell us what we can offer and what's the timing for everything. Everyone is always, not everyone, but a lot of the users come in and they act like they want to go quickly. Well, until the documents are done and we're a little further along, it's hard for us to explain to them what they can expect and not expect. So we're working on that. Some of the larger entities that are interested are still interested, but we don't have direct access to them. They're shielded by site selectors. We work closely with Ginny, and I constantly try and meet, if I can, with any of the site selectors, because I think our experience is one-on-one negotiation moves things along quickly, and I'm both persuasive and actually easy to work with when we're trying to get a deal done. So it's good to the extent I can meet with them. I'm available to meet with them. I like to meet with them. So from my standpoint, access and ITD are probably the two most important things to get resolved. The Union Pacific is important, but I'm hoping that gets resolved. I mean, it allows for better. I mean, what we're trying to do in the best of all worlds is have a campus technology type of a park that's as good as anything else in the country, That requires users. It requires some patience. The first user is very important because we're trying to create good-paying jobs, a nice anchor to the tech park, and a very cosmetic research and tech park if we can get it. So we're prepared for the long haul, but we know everyone would like to see results quicker, so it's the balance. But at the end of the day, it's a demand thing. Having said that, there is some demand locally, which we will try and access, and which we are trying to access. But the bigger demand for the bigger users are more Western United States. So I think the study from the students, the graduate students at USF will be helpful to us. And they'll be here. We haven't signed the papers yet, but I'm expecting we'll get everything squared away in October, and they'll become two of the students, the graduate students, two of the graduate students will come here and understand this area, and the others will split up between San Francisco and Seattle. So I think that will be helpful to us. Any questions you have, to the extent I have knowledge, I'll be happy to answer.
I do have a question. From what you know from ITD at this stage of the game, obviously they need to be finished with the construction. Do you have any kind of a good, reasonable feel for when they realistically will be able to begin construction and when they'll be able to close it out?
I have no feel, other than I'm guessing 3 years to close it out. But once they have the properties and they begin construction, we can tie into that, because we can open when they're done. We just really, on the retail, we can't open before they're done.
Right.
On the tech, we can go. The tech isn't really as dependent on ITD as the retail. Mm-hmm. So the tech won't hold us back. The documents are probably the most important thing for the tech, because it enables us to cost everything. Okay, here's what our cost is, here's what we can offer the tech users. And the tech part of it is more demand, but it's tough when the tech users come. They want to know, are you shovel ready or aren't you? And when you tell them you're not shovel ready, then they disbelieve anything you say because you're just a developer. They don't tend to trust developers. Although we've been in business a long time, and I tell the truth as much as I can, which is, here's how the project's going to work, here's what we can do for you. And I tell them this is going to take a year. Right now, a strong tech user with heavy demand could take 3 years. We are meeting with the electric utilities now to try and get it down to about a year. So I think that's our goal, is to shorten the construction and the opening as much as possible, so there's less uncertainty. Because usually the people you're working with are usually reporting upwards 1 or 2 to 3 levels. And the people you're working with don't want to be embarrassed. So they want you to tell the truth, but when you tell the truth, that may frighten them, because they have to then explain to the other people. Mm-hmm. So.
Chairman, I was at a Chamber of Commerce event where we were talking about legislative goals, and ITD had a representative at that event, and he estimated that the time frame for completion of the 41 expansion was 2020 to 2022, and then in 2023 they'll start the interchange at 41 and 90 work, and that will proceed probably another 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And I would generally agree with that. Once they've invested and they've acquired the land, they're going to move. It's a sunk cost. They're going to move quicker. So everything we can do to facilitate their acquisition is a plus. And from our standpoint, we would like to negotiate with them. Access is important to us. The lack of access is very negative, particularly because also in the tech park there could be 10 acres of commercial in different buildings. So access is there, important there too, you know, ancillary uses to the tech users. So from our standpoint, we like to move that along as quickly as possible. And we will tell them right away that they can have possession whenever they want. If they want to argue about values, they can do that without interfering with their process. And I think that's an important thing to remember with these smaller users and everything. They can litigate value if they have to and get possession, but they have to make the offers and move along.
Mm-hmm.
And they're an entity by themselves, so we certainly don't have huge influence with them.
It would seem to me that you could make the access question part of the land acquisition, in essence, accepting a lower price for the right-of-way
Absolutely,
in exchange for a more workable access.
absolutely. We're prepared to do that. We just have to be sitting with people. Yeah, we're prepared to do that.
Sure.
Very good. Okay.
What effect is the rail line running through the retail side of it going to have on the progress?
It only has effect as you go north on Highway 41. Be nice not to have the rails. Other than that, if the rail exists on the east side, it's not the end of the world. But it's going to interfere with Highway 41 traffic. I don't know how they're going to deal with that. So it's definitely much better to get them off of Highway 41 and not have to deal with the railroad track. I mean, for everyone. And yeah, everyone probably wants that. If you don't get that done, it won't affect the shopping center so much as it will affect how they're planning Highway 41, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds like the driver is really the right-of-way acquisition, finalizing all of that by ITD, because that's going to trigger the city moving forward and with you able to move forward with your development.
Yeah, that's probably, there's a few fundamental things, but that's probably the key thing that we all should, to the extent we have any influence, we should be talking about facilitating. We definitely will do whatever it takes to trade, because we need good access.
Sure.
And I think we have desires as to where the signal that's north of Prairie should go. That's definitely worth financial consideration to us. It makes the project better. But you have to be sitting down. Most of the people we're talking to are appraisers. They're not really ITD people. And I'm assuming everyone else is sort of in the same boat. I haven't heard north of Prairie that they've acquired anything. So that would be my big issue. And then the second big thing for the tech park is the utilities, particularly the power. And we've already started meetings. We've met with Kootenai, and we're meeting with, we've had 2 meetings with Avista. Probably have a 3rd one coming up. Because anything we can do to speed up that process is a plus.
Sure. Yeah. Good. Jamie, anything you'd like to ask?
One, I'm not sure if this is in your bailiwick, but that property that was in discussion between Post Falls and Rathdrum for that ground application, 500 acres or whatever it was.
Is that the property that is owned by Rathdrum?
Yep. Is there,
I know about the property, but I don't really.
you don't feel that that's going to be any involved in your project?
Not to my knowledge. We have an easement over it.
Okay.
We have a 120-foot easement. We have easements all the way up to really where the utilities are. And we have 3 different easements we got, just in case we need them to provide power. Really, we've showed the easements to Avista, and they said, it's a good thing you have it. It may or may not be critical to you.
Okay.
But at least we have it, so we have ways to get needed power and utilities down to the tech park. The other stuff, I don't know.
Okay. Anything else? Well, thank you so much for
Thank you for having me.
being here and giving us an update on all of that. And if there's anything that we can do to assist in moving things along in one way or another, be sure and let us know.
Thank you. You guys, I think you guys are doing great. Anytime you need me, I'm just 30 minutes away. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it. Okay, new business. Is there any new business to conduct today? Not aware of any. We'll move on to the staff report and updates, please.
Thank you. Last week, I received a reimbursement submittal from J.R. Watson in the Expo District. I am waiting for a city acceptance letter for Jacqueline Road and Expo Parkway, and then I'll meet with Matt Gillis from Welsh Comer and present a task order next month on those. And then Chris Logston in the Centerpoint District, I spoke with him on Monday, and he will be submitting costs for the extension of Beck Road that goes in front of the Maverick station. And once I get that, I will review that also with Matt Gillis and present a task order.
Okay, great.
And in Centerpoint, there's an update on Crown Enterprises. They have plans into the city, which should be approved in the next couple of weeks. And we have not heard anything from UPS when they will be relocating out there.
Excellent.
That's all I have.
Good. Oh, that's good news. All right. Any questions on the staff updates? If not, commissioner comments? Last chance, so to speak. And I'm going to also say the same. I have no further comments regarding today's meeting and things in the future. I'm really happy the way things are going in terms of these projects. I think we're just going to have to be patient. A lot's not always easy to do, but things are rolling along the way they should be and the way they typically do. So anything that we can do for the city or any of the developers, we certainly would like to be a part of that. And so we appreciate all of that. And we started our 3-on-3 meetings earlier this week, and I think it went well. We'll continue to do that once a month, and involving commissioners and Diana, myself, and the mayor, and Shelley, and some others there. I think that would be helpful in keeping us connected as we go along through these projects. I have no further comments, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here.